Happy February, listeners. This is Lisa Baue, author, coach, funeral director, and founder of the Funeral Women Lead Foundation, and your host of 4 Women and a Funeral. With us today are 3 other awesome 4 women total. We're excited to have all of you join us. I hope you're listening in. I hope you're staying warm wherever you are in February. I know January had some really bad weather. And we are all in red or wearing red pens because February is Heart Month. And we're going to talk a little bit about the heart. We're going to talk a little bit about stress today. But please welcome all the big parts of 4 Women in a Funeral. And that is Alicia Carr, owner of Kelco Supply Company, Wynn McBrayer, NFDA Secretary and President of Jones Wynn Funeral Homes and Crematory in Villa Rica, Georgia, and Melissa Posey Loose, Senior Vice President of Communications for Security National Funeral Homes and Cemeteries. We're all funeral directors. We're all women. We all have worked in the field for, I don't even know if I've added up all our years accumulative, but we've been here for a long, long time. And we've experienced a lot of different challenges over the years, but the one challenge that all of us have to pay more attention to is our hearts. We want to discuss this today because February is Heart Month, and that's why we're wearing red or have red on to honor all the women in our lives and all the men in our lives who have struggled with heart disease. And in my family, it's been very prevalent. I don't know about anybody else's. But we're going to talk a little bit more about what happens when chronic stress becomes just part of the job. So is that really true in funeral service? Is chronic stress continuously in our lives? And how does it really affect us? You know, in funeral service, it seems we've normalized a level of stress that would raise many red flags in almost any other profession. Long hours, on-call culture, emotional absorption is often described as just part of the job. And thank you for Melissa for sharing all that, because I think she's absolutely right. Today, we're going to ask, is that normal? Is normalization really helping us, and where does it quietly harm us? As we move into discussion, let me share a couple of stats that are alarming in the United States regarding women, heart disease, and stress. So, of course, Mayo Clinic, one of our great resources we have to rely on, of all the deaths in the U.S., 26% occur due to heart disease, and it is our nation's #1 killer. It is also, unbeknownst to a lot of people who think it's breast cancer, it is the #1 killer of women in the United States. It affects women of all ages, often presenting very subtle symptoms, like 1 in 3 women will die of it annually. That's pretty scary, huh? Pregnancy, menopause, autoimmune diseases, all of those can increase your risk. How does stress lead to heart attacks? Well, there's emotional stress, on-the-job stress, and these kinds of stresses elevate your heart disease risk. I just recently went through a whole executive physical, and they look inside your heart. They don't just do EKGs, they check your artery systems, your plaques, and as you age, as women, no matter what our ages are, we should always be paying attention to our heart health. In fact, the coronary heart disease risk increases by 40 to 60% and can trigger heart attacks for those where stress significantly affects them. That's pretty scary if we're thinking about what funeral service can actually do to our hearts. So the specific stressors, of course, besides work stress, childhood trauma, depression, anxiety, is there any of that in funeral service, especially in the depression and the anxiety side? So let's think about that and what we're going to do about that in the future. So let's talk, ladies. This is not really great news for funeral service, as emotional stress can be really high for all of us, especially with schedules, especially with working nights, days, weekends, holidays, and in the wintertime. Does our volume go up? Of course it does. In funeral homes, cemetery, crematories, for some reason the death rate seems to go up the very first quarter or the first of the year. And it seems that it's been far too long that this is just the status quo, that stress is always part of our lives. That employers are accepting it and sharing, in some respects, we're hearing, this is the way it's always been. Just get over it. This is just the job. So, what stress have we normalized that we shouldn't? Who wants to take this question? What stress have we normalized that we shouldn't be normalizing? Anyone? Melissa.
I'm happy to start. Hey, yeah, it's Melissa here. This concept of doing it all by yourself, I know this is prevalent in a lot of our smaller firms that are in funeral service. I think about my parents in their early 20s, my dad went off and started his own funeral home in a very small town, and it was literally just the two of them. So he was doing night call, he was doing the services, he was meeting with families. So my mother wasn't licensed. And, that's the way it has to, I guess sometimes has to be to make ends meet. But I think that we've normalized that too much. As a profession, and just doing this, I'm going to do it all myself kind of mentality. And we're like honoring that as a badge of courage.
Right, yeah.
Sure.
Recognizing it and making it an example of the perfect employee, I think, is really where some places are at, right? Be like this person, be like this person, but that's really not leadership.
Exactly.
So that's not leading by example, is it?
No.
When we're just working our tails off night and day and night, weekends,
It's
holidays.
not healthy leadership. I mean, it's a
It is
form
not
of leadership. You're taking the reins, you're doing what needs to get done, but it's not healthy when it's prolonged,
So why do you think these stressors have just existed in our profession for all this time, and we just accept them and we just keep bringing them on and we just take them on? What do you think?
I believe it's sometimes easier to, without, causing conflict or causing whatever, just to get it done and do it yourself. I feel like that's how I am sometimes. So I take responsibility for that, and that is definitely one of my stressors that I have normalized, is like, I just feel like you have to be the steady Eddie and really just kind of be the leader, be the one that gets something done. Like, I do that at home, I do that at work.
Don't leave the office till it's all done, right?
Well, yeah, kind of. And if I know how to do it, if that, it's just like easier, like put it on my list, it's something to do.
You said the other day when I was talking to you that you just work through lunch. So you always have lunch at your desk.
Yeah.
And
For
you're always eating.
more than 15 years, I've never sat at a table to eat lunch, unless I'm not at work.
Is that crazy? Is that crazy? Is that
Uh-huh.
crazy? That's crazy. So that's a stressor you probably add on top of it. I remember just packing lunches because I had back-to-back days where I just take my lunch box and I'd pop out into the hearse and grab a quick snack or try to get a sandwich in and, then get all the food out of my teeth before I'd have to go down the aisle and conclude a
Yeah.
service. What about you, Ellen? What do you do? Do you think have you normalized any stressors in your life in funeral service? You're an active funeral director running a firm, as well as being NFDA secretary and someday president. What stressors have you baked into the job without even questioning it? It's already there.
Yeah, and it, on a day that is very stressful today, just with so much going on and just, trying to do everything like what y'all just described. But it's also one of those things that I also feel with funeral service, everyone's heart is in such a right spot to help, that it's hard to take time for yourself and say, I need to take a step back and take a deep breath and recharge my battery. I think that has been normalized by a lot of people to just give, and don't ever put back into their tank. And so, days off and keeping good notes but that feeling and the urgency of being there all the time so that people can have access to you. I think that's a big part of our profession that's hard to balance, because when you give everything, and I know when my grandfather got older, every family event that we had, we would always have a word of prayer, and my brother and I would get on each side of him, and it became something that us as teenagers probably shouldn't have done, but we wanted to see who could get him to cry the fastest. But I think it's because I think he cried so much all the time when he got older because he never allowed himself to feel outwardly when his heart broke for all the families that he served, and he just was so tough all of those years that when he got to be pawpaw age, he would just cry at the drop of a hat. So my brother and I made it a game, which is probably not the best the older I get, that we did that to him. But,
Shame.
but he loved us so much, and he did. He would get teared up and just being so strong all the time for the families, and so.
So that's one of our baked-in stressors, is it, Melissa?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I think we close off our valves, right? Our outlets. Sometimes we get into situations where we really need to have a release. We get in with that family, let's say with a child who's died. We just had a call last night, and the family experienced the death of their 2-year-old. I mean, that can be so traumatic for a funeral director too, who's trying to lead them. You know, there might be some things personally that are triggered with a situation like that. And I remember so many times going out when I was doing a ranger training for NFDA and talking to funeral directors across the country, and I would hear them say that, because I'd asked some question about showing emotion in an arrangement conference, and I would often hear, no, that's not appropriate. It's not appropriate to cry. I understand that we are to be leaders and people do need to rely on us as a rock, but I also think it's very important for us to have a human element to make those connections with families. And I think for too long we have shut off the valve that allows that humanity to come through. So I'll get off my soapbox now.
That's okay. So it's okay to show that you're human and that sometimes you're having stress on the job, right? And it's okay to cry sometimes in front of others because it shows that you care for them. That's all right, right?
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
A controlled. I don't think we can sob, but I think to get emotional is to be human. The day I don't have emotion when helping a family is the day I retire. So I feel like that's a part of what we do. Like I feel like you need that human side, but to have that empathy and to hurt with families is a part of it. And talking about another stressor that's baked in is when our son was born with a heart condition, since we're talking about Heart Month, our second born, to have to plan his funeral before he was born because they said he wouldn't survive.
Oh, wow.
As a mom, I think all of us in funeral service, with or without a chronically ill child, as a mom, when we see so much happening to families that when they go through, especially over the loss of a child, that's something I think women carry heavy, is the what ifs. Like,
Absolutely.
You need to wear your helmet because I'm a funeral director. You have to wear your helmet all the time. And my kids are like, but there's no but, like, wear your helmet. So it's just like, but I'm just going to the mailbox. It doesn't matter, So my children are like, stop, because there's that deeper layer of we've seen too much in funeral service and how quickly an accident can happen. And I feel like a lot of women carry that too. And especially my husband and I having to plan a funeral. We never talked about it. I can count on one hand that I've ever talked about having to plan his funeral before we gave birth because we didn't know what state of emotion we would be in. And so we felt like we needed to plan, not ever wanting to use it, obviously, but we didn't know what emotional state we would be in to help continue raising also our 5-year-old at the time. And so, but praise the Lord, Wynn's now 15 and we're still medically fragile, but he is on medical cruise control right now. So we're at a good spot. But I think women carry that too as a mom. You
do. I remember times where we've had children die, and of course a lot of heart non-operable back in the day, non-operable heart situations, and some of them even today, they just, operations don't help, right? And they live with the heart disease, or eventually it takes them. And you just go home and hug your children, right? Because you're trying to be there to help the families. At the same time, use your heart as you help them, but it's breaking your heart inside, right? Inside, you start personalizing that to how you feel if that was your child there, right? And that can be pretty stressful. So let's ask this question. When stress gets reframed as a personal problem. So, Alicia, you talk a lot about self-care critiques, and it's been labeled as a boundary issue. Is it, what's been labeled as a boundary issue that it's actually a staffing or a workload issue? Are we putting this stress on our staff? Are we overworking them? Are we not being flexible with schedules? Is there a workload issue that's just keeps that stress at a high level the whole time we are supervisors or employers or in the workplace? What about that? What about that question?
Are you speaking directly to me? I think this is better served being answered by either three of you, because I have not worked the 24-hour shifts that you guys have had to work. I am a funeral director. Finally got my license last week, actually.
Yay.
But
Yay.
We are not a 24/7 business ourselves. I understand it, but I have not lived it, the way that you all have. So I think I might step aside and let you guys speak to that.
So I think it definitely used to be the culture and may still be at some funeral homes, depending on, especially, when funeral homes get very busy. I think that can be. We have made an very active push to really change that. As a family-owned firm, to really have policies a little bit like corporate, but also the flexibility of a family firm, because it's important to respect the boundaries so that people don't burn out and that they work hard when they're there. Of course, there's times that everybody has to pitch in and help, for the sake of families that we're serving, and just so much we can and can't do, depending on how many families we're serving. But, to stay on a schedule, and it's hard because sometimes, I'll have a funeral director that says, I haven't taken a day off, I'm not going to. And I'm like, you're going to have to. If it's not the day that's on the schedule, you have to take a day off because you have to recharge. And so I think it's a very important, we're very protective of that here in our culture, because it's so important moving forward that we all want to still stay and work together and serve together. It's such a big part of the movement that we started when we kind of restructured things about 7 years ago, and it's been very good, but also hard to sometimes to get people to let loose and go and clock out. So, which is a good problem.
Yeah. Melissa.
Yeah, I'd love to add to that. I mean, I receive everything that Ellen just said, and it's so true. I think that along with that, a big yellow flag, I'm going to say, maybe, and sometimes also a red flag, is the phrase, you need to manage your time better. Now, there are people, I think, that truly do need to learn to manage their time better. I am one of those. But I think also as leaders, as employers, if we're feeling compelled to say that to someone, I think we should do our due diligence a bit and think about what systems, what tools we have given them to be able to manage that. So, for example, we found that here with Securing National Funeral Homes and Cemeteries. And I'll have to say kudos to my friend and colleague Erin Krager, because she brought up a book called The Morning Miracle. And it's just been an optional thing that our folks could read and participate in like a discussion group with. But I've heard chatter throughout, the different funeral homes and offices that I've been in, that people are actually trying the tools that are given in that and developing their skill set of managing their time. We also did Eat That Frog recently.
Oh, Eat the Frog's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great book.
Again, back to Ellen's point, are we given unrealistic expectations? Is there an opportunity for us to maybe improve our processes and systems so that people can manage their time? And have we taught them how to do it?
Right. Are we leading by example too? So
Well,
when that phone rings, when that phone starts ringing continuously, and that death calls keep coming in, are we just continuously setting appointments? Are we sitting back and saying, and this may be a little controversial, we'll have to schedule you 2 or 3 days out because we don't have the staff adequate to serve you? Or are we just killing ourselves and staying into the evening and making arrangements and trying to fit families in at the detriment of our own staff, because that's part of our culture, is to not say no to families? Go ahead.
From a leadership standpoint, I think it is like you can do your very best to manage your own schedule, your own, what do you have to do for the day? It's those times where something comes up, everybody else is invading your schedule. Like you could have finished everything that you had planned for that day and gotten it all done
out of my
just
space.
fine. But
Right.
That's where the boundaries need to come in, and expectations of, like you're saying, like do we
So is
stay
it
till
okay
6
as a funeral?
or do we push them
Yeah.
up?
Is it okay as a funeral director to say no to your boss and say, "I'm sorry, but I've met my quota of families today. I'm tired and I just can't take one more"? What do you think?
In today's environment, I wouldn't.
Sure.
That won't fly. That won't fly. But it's normalized, right? We have to get to the point where that will be at least somewhat okay. Like, okay, well, how do we manage schedules? I don't know that. That's one question. I go many places, and I hear people asking, "What do you guys do? What's your schedule? What
Sure.
what kind
Everybody's
of?"
talking about schedules.
Yeah, and it just
But-
doesn't ever seem to jive for anyone.
And I think that's one thing that we really do work very hard on, and our funeral directors will communicate with each other on that, and we keep a live document that is our schedule to not overbook, because you can't be everything to everybody all the time. And
Good
so
point.
I don't think no is the correct thing. I think yes, absolutely we can accommodate you, but it will be tomorrow or the next day. Right? It's not, no, we can't meet today. There are some, the vast majority of families, if you explain to them, in a compassionate way, in order for us to be able to sit down with you and give you our 100%, we're going to need to meet tomorrow or the next day, right? And so I think it's all in presentation and being able to develop that skill set and how to communicate with families. There's been a few situations that the family just very much so will say, absolutely not. I need it right now. And then we adjust if we can, and if we can't, it's just very, very rare. But if you meet people with your heart, it's Heart Awareness Month. If you meet people with your heart and express to them, truth makes sense, families understand it. And a lot of families are like, actually, I need a day too. Because I think the culture is that families also feel like, what do I do? What do I do? I need to get in. And so what we'll do is we'll work with families to go ahead and set that service time so that the friends don't go ahead and plan the service time, right? That's a big problem.
That happens.
Yeah. And that is what adds a lot of stress to families is and I even had one of my best friends from college, her husband called me from a different state and his dad had passed away. And he said, Ellen, what do we do? Because they can't see us until 2 days from now. I understand that, but what do? We don't know what to do. And I said that you need to call the funeral director and ask them about times to go ahead and get that time slot. That is the number one stress that we've found with families if we can't see them that day or the next day, is because the overwhelming people that want to support them and love them through a service, they all are asking the question, when's the funeral, when's the funeral, when's the service, when's the memorial? That's the biggest stress. So just having that conversation with families and being able to accommodate them with that takes a lot of that stress away of people pulling on the families, the extra stress on the families.
And when I hear you say all that, that says to me there's a training opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
a professional development opportunity with
Absolutely.
the people that we work with to teach them how to say those things. And there's also probably a system crafting opportunity, like what can we do better to be able to fix this so that we have a way to handle these things. And also an education opportunity for the families we work with.
Okay.
How do we even give them enough information?
That's true.
Go ahead.
There's a training opportunity for our staff. There's a training opportunity for the owners too. So the owners and the managers and supervisors who are putting all these demands that have become a part of the regular routine in funeral service, that we are just here to serve whenever a family needs us, versus let's set appointment times with breaks in between so that our staff has some quality downtime, rest time. We have restrooms, not the bathroom restrooms. We have relax rooms at Baue's where you can actually go take a break with soft music, put your headset on, and take 15, 20, 30-minute breaks if you need it. And we have those available to our staff all day long. And I don't know if anyone else has those in their facilities, but I would highly recommend finding a very quiet place. We took our crematory out. We built in 2 rooms. We put these lounge chairs in. You can lean back in. They have vibration. They're massage chairs. We got little waterfall if you want to use it, or a little scent. Those kind of things are important. But I'm more concerned about the owners and managers saying, we can't turn this family away, because I have a family that says, if you don't get me in today, I'm going down the street to somebody else. How do you deal with that if you're the employee and you're absolutely exhausted? How do you say no to your boss? As a devil's advocate, if we don't take control, we as frontline funeral directors, cemeterians, cremationists, and be able to have these crucial conversations with our bosses or our supervisors to say, hey, how can you help us slow these families down? Ellen.
I think it's an important conversation, maybe not to say no to the boss, but to work with the boss. Hi, I'm feeling burnout. I'm afraid I'm going to make a mistake. And we tell our team all the time here, if you feel overwhelmed, let us know, let our scheduling manager know, so that we can bring other people in to answer the phones. We get a visitation person in to answer phones to help relieve a little of that stress, because it's so important. Because if that conversation is, if the team member is to the point of saying, no, I can't do this, then my question is, what about that work environment as a whole, right? That team member needs to have the ability to say, Coach, just like a football game, Coach, my ankle is hurt, I need it wrapped. Mm-hmm. So you get the physical therapist to wrap it, right? And so we very much encourage that, to say, if there is an overwhelming feeling, we can't help with support and bring other staff in if we don't know about it. And so we charge our team to say, hey, it's your responsibility. You need to let us know, and that way we can rearrange and do what we do, since we have a scheduling manager, to help serve families to the best and give them our 100%. Even, because every day that I wake up, my 100% may not be my 100%. I may be operating at 80% due to stress and due to other things going on, but I'm still giving it my best. And so those are the days that we do encourage our team. And I encourage anybody that is listening to this podcast is to try to create that, no matter if you're at the top of the totem pole or the bottom of the totem pole, to create that so that you have a team environment, so that the team together works together and everybody can do and achieve more.
Yeah, and that's not people saying, I don't want to work.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
That's not what they're telling you.
That's
and
right.
I keep hearing that over and over. They just don't want to work. Well, that might not be the case. Listen to what they're saying, like what Ellen's saying. They might be giving you a flag. Look at it. Examine it.
Yeah.
Good advice.
Yep.
Good advice, ladies. Actually, I think call Ellen, call Melissa. They'll talk to your boss.
Yeah.
Call Lisa.
I'll talk to
Well,
anybody.
and
She
I'm going to bring
coaches
something up
owners.
here.
Yes, Elisa.
Ellen, when you were talking about reframing, having that conversation with the customer, or with the family that walks in, it's not, and it reminds me again of Marguerite Ham. It's the yes and conversation, turning it into a positive rather than the yes but we can't get till Tuesday. Yes, and we can get you we can get you in right away on Tuesday morning. Like, that sounds much better than, but we can't get you in until Tuesday. So yes, and
also change the word however to as it turns out. As it turns out is a more positive way to say however. Yep. As it turns out. But I'll tell you where I learned the yes and comment, because Rhett was a little bit our oldest. He's in college now, but when he was about 7 years old, he came home from a friend's house and he was like, I just love Miss Kimberly because she never says no. And as a mom, I'm like, tell me what that means. Like, what does that mean? He goes, I asked her if we could have $1 million, and she said, absolutely, as soon as I find it, honey. And I was like, what a good answer. Like, she really doesn't ever say no, but she is saying
They're
no.
leaving
but,
feeling good.
Right, yeah, he did. He was like, I know she doesn't have $1 million, but I just love that she made it feel like she could find it. So
That's right. And also maybe speak on behalf of your team too. So, and I like the phrase "so that." So explain the why. Explain why you feel maybe the schedule needs to change, why you feel you need more training and how to better talk to families, so that they can feel comfortable. If you have to say no to them today, you have to say tomorrow is better. We have more time to serve you, and don't make excuses for we're busy. I've heard time and time, I used to do shopper call training and shopper auditing, and I'd hear people on the phone say, we're too busy to serve you. Not, but they would say, we're so busy, I can't talk to you for 2 more days. Like, you can't even set a service schedule. You can't even set up a visitation. You can't even call the minister and talk to the church, because if you don't, that family will. And they'll just go out and do it themselves with their church, and their church won't say no to them.
Yeah.
Their church will. But the pastor, if he's on a day off, what does that pastor do? Sometimes that pastor comes in on his day off, so you got to be careful and make sure that you're just not punting it to the church either. So I think those are critical ones. Well, hey, as our time goes on, these are all really good tips for owners and really good tips for staff to have these communication conversations that go through long term about how are we better going to be able to handle the busy times. And we're right in the middle of the busy times of funeral service, especially the first 2 quarters of the fiscal year. This is just crazy times. I remember at Baue's in January, February, and March, I remember not having a day off for many times, and that's not okay anymore. It's just not okay. The stress will catch up to you. How about we talk about solutions for stress and how we deal with stress and how it affects our hearts. So the Mayo Clinic is really big on solutions. They don't just tell you all the things you should do, but they want to get out there and say, hey, how can you better take care of yourself? So other topic, ideas like how do you harness your strengths and your energy, taking part of social activities, giving back to others and volunteering, start something with random acts of kindness, right? Begin to journal, be creative, be mindful of your daily life. Obviously, exercise regularly, challenge negative and catastrophic thoughts, avoid smoking and caffeine, right? And eat foods of high nutritional value. Come off the holidays, are we doing all that good stuff? What are some of your solutions here at Four Women in a Funeral that you feel have helped you deal with the stressors of the day-to-day in your lives that are so busy?
I've got one. And I just talked a little bit about this. We did a really great exercise at our wellness summit in the fall. And I know Alicia and I participated with this. But, identifying what your issue is and naming it, writing it down. And I'm not going to go into the great depths of what we really did, but I think it could apply on a smaller level, right? So naming what it is, write it down, and literally throw it in the trash can, burn it in your campfire, whatever. You are getting rid of it. You're making a physical action to remove that.
So would you burn it and say my boss is the real problem because he won't give me a day off and we're too busy? But yeah, you got to let some of that stuff go, don't you?
Yeah, you got to identify it. That's the first place to start.
Yeah, that's a good one. How about you, Alicia? What do you do to help cope with all the stressors that are in your life besides eating lunch at your desk for the last 15 years?
Right, yeah.
I'm going to call you on it, girl.
Yeah, I don't know that that's helping me, but I feel more productive when I'm doing that because I can eat and get something done at the same time.
Oh, okay.
It's a mindset, I think. But it is. I think it really is about, changing a mindset. Like if as we were preparing for this, I was watching a couple of YouTube videos. I saw some from the Mayo. I saw some from a couple other sources. But there was a doctor that came on and basically talked about, how do you sort of change your mindset? How do you, at the end of the day, when you've had a terrible day, do you go to bed with that stress? Is it going to keep you up at night? Is it going to, how are you going to get a good night's rest? That's very important, part of self-care, obviously. And will reduce your cortisol, all the good things that you need to do to take care of your heart. And he said, before you go to bed, take a deep breath, and rather than sort of ruminate on all of the negative things, all the bad things that happened during that day, is find the good and go to sleep with that. So I do that a lot of times. I do like to find silver linings everywhere because I think there's a lot of need to do that. A lot of reasons I want to do that. But just taking care of yourself. I've said it in our discussions before, but a few years ago I just decided I really don't want to end up, because I was feeling, I told myself I'm burnt out. And that's where I got in the conversations with this other woman. And is it stress or is it burnout? And how do you know the difference between the two? But that's when I decided I needed to, schedule the appointment and just take time for myself, make sure that I'm putting things on my calendar that are taking care of me. And that was leaving work 2 days a week early. I leave at 4:00 so I can get to a 4:30 Pilates class 2 days a week. Right. And on weekends, I take walks with my dogs, that kind of stuff. So I try, my watch tells me when I should get ready for bed, 15 minutes before I want to be in bed. So I don't always, be like, oh, gotta go, that kind of stuff. But it makes me more aware, I should be doing this now. And many times I will do that. If I'm in the middle of something, I don't generally, but just being more aware of how I need to care for my own body, my own mental capacity, so that I can get the rest I need and be regenerated by the next morning.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So Ellen, you've got a busy day today with lots of funerals.
Yeah.
What are you going to do tonight to relieve that stress, or during the day? And what is your normal routine, or what have you discovered helps you relieve stress?
That's a great question. But the first thing I'm going to do is start with, I want y'all to write this down. Something that we started, my husband and I and family started years ago, HALT. I don't know if you've heard about the HALT theory, HALT. The first thing when you start having stress or a panic attack or a hard day, you have to analyze HALT. Are you hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? HALT. And that's when you got to take a step back and analyze if you're hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and have a self-awareness so that you can understand what is making you feel the way that you're feeling. If you're hungry, let's eat. If you're lonely, call a friend. If you're angry, walk outside, right, and take a breath of fresh air. And I think tired as well. You know, anytime my children get upset, I'm like, oh, it's because you're tired. No, I'm not tired. No, Mom, I'm not tired. I think adults do the same thing. Adults are like, I'm not tired. I'm not hungry. I'm not angry. Well, you might be all of those things. So let's halt and take a minute. Let's take a minute. Take 5, like NFDA says. And so that's where I start when I start feeling a certain way. I stop and I'm like, why am I feeling this way? Because usually it's one of those 4. May or may not be. It could be something else, but usually it's one of those 4. And so one thing that I've started doing this year is exercising in the morning, even if it's 5 minutes or a mile walk or 2 miles. I'm trying to do a 5K a day. We'll see how long that lasts. But tonight I'm going to actively try to go to sleep because the tired part really wears on me because when everybody goes to bed, that's when I start trying to do what I need to do on my to-do list. And it's not effective because I'm also tired at night. So I try to go to bed now, Lisa, and actively get rest, which is such a big part of everybody's world. So I hope I answered your question.
You did. You did a great job. That's awesome. I like the halt.
I'm
So
using
do you have like a little signal that you give each other, like a little hand signal, like you stick your hand out there, or you
I
give each
can't
other a
do that
technical
on
foul?
I can't do that on video. The hand signal. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No,
Some people have
we
little
don't.
signals like stop. Or
We don't
halt,
do a
or-
hand signal. Now, one thing my parents used to do, and Scott and I try to do it, is if somebody else in our family is feeling stressed out, or we try to show them how proud we are of them. So we'll push our faces together and smile as big as we can, and let's show them how proud we are of them, just to try to, And I've also heard from the Mayo Clinic that 10 hugs a day helps reduce stress.
Yes, I think it's 12 though. I've heard 12.
Is it 12?
I've
Oh,
heard
I gotta
12.
up my hugs.
Yeah, you
then.
got to add 2 more. Sorry.
I can do
12
that.
hugs
I
a
can do
day.
that.
Yeah, helps you thrive. Exactly. 10, you might be surviving. So go for 12.
Okay.
An
I'll
even
go for
dozen.
12. I like it.
Yeah. How
That's
about
good. I
you,
like it.
Melissa? What do you do for stress relief and in the middle of a crazy day, and you travel a lot, you visit a lot of funeral homes and cemeteries, you got a lot going on, you're training people all over the place. How do you help your funeral directors to deal with their stress?
Well, what we've been doing is really having some of these discussion groups, and that's just giving them an outlet, a space to really talk. That's just so important. Tell you something else we've done, and this leans more into training, but teaching the concept about crucial conversations and how to really talk to somebody when there are those hard sometimes we get so worked up about these conversations we've got to have with families or somebody on our team or our people at home, and people just don't have the tools to do that a lot of times. So making that an awareness, and then having people that can be your point person, your accountability partner. I think all of those things are important. For me, I'm blessed, and I can say that today because a lot of people I know aren't, but I truly am blessed to have somebody that's my partner, my husband, and he is my go-to, and he says I'm his, so I hope I'm living up to that. But we do a little debrief when we get home. It's just our thing that we do, and yeah, so I think having your people and having a space to talk is just so important. I do appreciate one other thing, and this leans back at what Alicia said about gratitude. I think it was you, right? Just a minute ago.
Yeah.
One of the best gifts I received this Christmas was from a colleague. It's a gratitude journal. It's literally a page that you just have 5 minutes. And I thought about something that you had encouraged us to do, Lisa, last year. Acknowledge the gratitudes and then acknowledge the wins, and kind of look in your day with that.
Yep, in your journal. Right. Once a day.
And it's perfect, and it's just such a game changer because it does help with the mindset issue. it helps us see that there truly are things. It can be the smallest thing, but there are good things happening. And I think that's so important for us, especially in our profession, to see the good when we're surrounded by so much. One last
great.
thing, and then I know we need to go. 28.5%, I saw this statistic, so I wrote it down. There's a gal named Jessica McClanahan that did a master's thesis in 2019. She's from Harvard. And she examined post-traumatic stress among mortuary workers.
Really?
She said 28.5% of her sample showed PTSD, or met the criteria for that. And I think that's really important for us as leaders, especially to be mindful of that. The work we do is hard on a lot of levels, emotionally, physically, spiritually. So I love all the suggestions today. Y'all are great. Great examples.
This is awesome.
I'm honored to be with you.
Me too.
And
This is awesome.
and that book, Crucial Conversations, is one of my favorite books. So I
It's
encourage
good.
everybody
It's
to
good.
read that. It's so
Exactly. Yes, and, right? And so that. And what was yours, Ellen? You have halt. And what was your other
Halt.
tip?
Instead of saying, however, as it turns out.
As it turns out.
know.
I love that.
As it turns out. Is an easier.
You can make $1 million this year, right? I love that.
As
Well,
soon as we find it.
Right. Right. Mayo Clinic's got some great tips. I encourage you to go to the mayoclinic.com. They've got some great tips on how to reduce stress from different ideas of, believe it or not, it is possible to escape some of the minor stresses that tend to trouble people. You can alter, communicate clearly, and let people know your expectations. It can make a world of difference. You can accept the situation, can ease much of the stress when avoiding or altering things that don't work, and changing your standards and expectations of stressful situations that can help you cope with stress. In other words, don't strive for perfection. Ladies, we do that all the time in this business. Choose dinners that are easier. I love that tip. All right, who's got a crock pot going tonight? Yeah. Don't replay stressful situations over and over again at night, especially when you're going to bed. Right? Write down something positive that was a win for you or something you're grateful for. Choose to focus on the positive aspects of your life and change your perspective by asking yourself if the stressor will really matter in 5 years. How about that? 5 years from now, will it really matter? Thank you for Women in a Funeral for joining us today. Alicia, Melissa, and of course Ellen and all of our friends out there listening in today. We wish you a blessed, peaceful, and stress-less winter. Be safe out there in the bad weather. Please share our podcast with others. Leave us reviews wherever you listen in. Don't forget to follow funeralwomenlead.org and keep an eye on everything that we're doing from our upcoming Wellness Summit next fall. And listen in, give us great reviews because we love you all, and we're going to all show our hearts for anybody that's watching, because this is what we do at 4 Women in a Funeral. Show our hearts, leave our hearts here on this podcast, and tell you more about what our hearts feel. Thank you again, ladies. Great to be with you.
4 Women and a Funeral is a Crabshell Media podcast.